Got to say thank you to Motor City, 1111 North University in Lafayette. MotorCityLA.com. That is their website. Follow them on social media. Now, if you can't make it down to the dealership, their website is updated, and you can see the inventory. If something's new, it's on their website. If something's sold, it's on their website too. But go and see them, MotorCityLA.com. It's tax time. Maybe you want to get that refund, put it on a vehicle. They got some great cars, trucks, and SUVs over at Motor City. Also, we got to say thank you to Louisiana Sewer Solutions, the official doo-doo sponsor of the morning show, because I talk a lot of doo-doo. They're the #1 sewer treatment manufacturing facility in the state. They also can repair the sewer systems. They can replace them. They can put a whole brand new one. They can do dirt work and culverts and concrete pads, anything to get your home ready. They can do it for you at Louisiana Sewer Solutions. And then also we got to say thank you to Acadiana Cars on the Thruway. They have Bentelli golf carts, and they are the official golf cart of the morning show, and that's at Acadiana Cars. Now, we're still in the month of March because it's March 17th, and it's the March Madness sale. They have some great deals on 2024 Bentelli golf carts. So good, I can't tell you about the prices, but go by and see them today. That is Acadiana Cars on the Thruway. Don't miss it. March Madness sale. So we're here. Got a special guest with us this morning inside the Power Hour. We have MMA legend Eric Scallan. What's up, my man? Good morning.
What's up, man? How you doing?
I'm doing great, dude. I'm doing great. Glad to have you here inside the Power Hour. Glad to have you here at the Chris Logan Media Studio. And you found your way. You were a little confused on where the shed was.
Oh man, it's definitely a little sketchy getting here. I thought I was going to get a kidney stolen on the way over here.
You texted me like, "Hey man, where am I going?" And so I sent you a picture.
It was a trap house next to a trap studio, and it's super sketchy. So I was like, "All right, this is going to be fun, man." So
but once you get in, it's nice.
Oh yeah,
right?
it's beautiful.
Once you get in, it's 5-star, bro.
Not a trap house. It's a trap home.
Dude, well, thanks for joining us, man. Appreciate you taking the drive. And you know what? The only person to ever get lost coming on the show, right? And I didn't think he would. Tim Metcalf was the only person to ever get lost coming here, dude.
No, I could see it. No, my heart dropped. I was like, man. I was like, because I thought it was in. I'll tell you, like I thought it was in Crowley.
Yeah.
And then I was like, no, I'm driving. I'm like, wait, we're not in Crowley. And then, like, as soon as I pulled up, like, my heart dropped. And I do, like I'm never late. Like, I hate being late.
You were early.
I used to be crazy irresponsible when I was younger. So, like, nowadays, like, I am 10 minutes early for everything. Yeah, I was like, man, I'm about to call this dude. I'm about to ruin this dude's show.
Like, where am I? Are you at a house? I'm like, no, dude, I'm at a building, and I sent you a picture. Yeah, right. So at the shed / trap house. It's been called many things. So there's a local comedian, Brock White Lyons.
Okay.
And Brock is actually a huge MMA fan, dude. He knows everything about MMA. But he was the first person to give the building the nickname The Shed. So that's why now we call it The Shed. It's been called the Trap House. It's been called all sorts of things. But glad you're here this morning, dude. Talking about Ragin Fighting Championship, RFC 1 is Saturday, March 29th, the Youngsville Sports Complex. It's going to be an amazing event. We talked to Damon and Jared last week. And look, it's going to sell out. This is going to be a sold-out event. So if you did not get your tickets yet, make sure to get them. It's RaginFC.com, the website. You can buy your tickets there. If you're feeling lucky, we have a 4-pack of VIP tickets on our website that you can go and register for over at listentotheplanet.com. And I'll give those away on the 25th. So you still got some time up until next Tuesday to go and register for those. But, man, MMA fighting, something that you've been doing for a long time, Eric, and you had retired, and then now you're back with RFC 1. I want to start with you, man. I want a resume for some people who may not be familiar with you. Tell us how it all started, where you've been, and all leading up until now.
No, I mean, it all started in the mean streets of Metairie. No, I went to Holy Cross High School in New Orleans in the lower 9th Ward, and man, it was an all-boys school, and everyone there was from Chalmette, they were from Slidell, from St. Bernard, Violet. I mean, a lot of West Bankers. You're talking a lot of gelled hair, a lot of tank tops, a lot of gelled hair. And as a little kid, man, they had all these big football players, and they were all fighters, right? And it probably wasn't like the best role models growing up, but it was always something like, man, you always heard about these older guys getting into fights. I mean, like jumping people, like it's horrible, right? I remember like there was a story of like my brother and like 50 of his classmates, like one of their friends got beat up, and they showed up with like 50 people, and like it was like a legendary story. I mean, dude, it's assault, bro. They should have went to jail, And so, no, I always kind of grew up in that culture, and I come from a wrestling background, and actually, like, man, I never really got in a fight until I was like 17 or 18, and I remember this kid robbed me and beat me up, and no, so I remember I showed up with all my friends to go fight this kid, and I backed out. And I was like, no, I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this. And then, dude, I remember I would have dreams about this kid. And then, dude, sure enough, 3 months later, I ran into him. I'm like, let's go. And, dude, I didn't know how to fight, but I could wrestle. And I could just pick this guy up, and I slammed him a million times. And I remember just being like, oh, I can fight.
Hey, yeah.
Yeah, I can do this, And so, look, when I was younger, man, I was a loose cannon, probably, 18, 19, fighting everyone. Definitely got me in a lot of trouble, definitely wasn't at peace with myself, that's for sure, but then, I kind of started dabbling into MMA, and then it was kind of like in the middle of my wrestling career, I was kind of on my way out the door, and I remember I think we're at like Dino's, like I got Tim Metcalf, I think we're at Dino's, and they had like the fights playing, and I'm sitting there with a group of people. And I remember it's like Carl Parisian and like Diego Sanchez fighting. And it's like a judo and a wrestler guy going at it. And I remember just watching it and saying, man, I can do that. I'm not wrestling anymore. I'm 20 something, and I still feel there's a lot of unfinished business. I don't feel like I lived to my full potential in wrestling. And so I think that's what made me successful, is that I always had a freaking chip on my shoulder. All these guys, they went off and did this, they won this tournament, they won that. And I'm like, I'm in Lafayette going back to school, and that's what led to a lot of my success. And then I think, I walked into this, I started training with this guy, Harry Duyon. And so we walked into this dojo. That's what it was back in the day. It wasn't like a mixed martial arts gym. It was like like Aikido guys and judo guys and then Kung Fu guys. And they all had like their own thing to bring. And so I walked in and I started training, and coincidentally at the same time, like Poirier started training at the same time. And we come from different walks of life. I mean, I'm preppy, right? Dustin showed up. I mean, he had this hoopty. I mean, he had the mustache. He had all kinds of different tattoos than he does have now. Yeah. I mean, two people you'd think would not mix, but man, we just showed up. I could wrestle. Dustin could throw hands, and dude, we were training on this. It was carpet. Dude, they had splinters of wood stuck it into our feet. And dude, I was telling you, dude, we didn't know what we were doing. Like, we were punching sand. We were taking bamboo and rubbing it on our shins. I mean, we were two guys that, look, Dustin was fighting, had his reasons to fight, and I had my reason to fight, and we kind of fed off of each other. And then, eventually I started, Josh Artie came into the mix, and it was like, hey, this guy's a little bit more legitimate. And then when Tim decided to open up his gym, I was like, hey, we got a real gym coming, and we still train with everyone, but anyway, Tim opened his own gym, and then, man, we just started our amateur career. And I think our first big break was, me and Dustin were actually both 1-1 as amateurs. Right. And so we decided to do this amateur world championship, which doesn't even make sense, right? You can't be a world champion, but I don't know. But no, we went to Iowa and we did this tournament. And I remember I fought 3 times in 2 days. And I won this title. And you think about it now, it's like, man, and it was so fun to be able to do something like that. 3 times in 2 days. I remember after my first day, I fought twice. And I remember my trainer just put me in a bathtub and just threw a bunch of ice on me. Dude, I was hurting. But dude, we both won that tournament. I remember sitting in the hotel room and we felt like world champions. Yeah. I mean, you could have swore I won the UFC belt. I mean, we were, and to us it was. It was one of the biggest, and we came back to Lafayette and kind of went on our tear. And
this was when? This was what year, Eric? What was
2007, 2008. You know,
so it was still probably a little before, this resurgence, if you will, of MMA. Like y'all were kind of doing that, not really by yourself, but they didn't have all the gyms that they have now and everything. And like you said, y'all were making up your like y'all's own workout.
Yeah, it was style versus style back then, and then it really, and I can remember like Dustin, I remember, and I was scared for him, man. It was this guy. I wrestled in Iowa for a year. And Dustin, I think maybe in the finals or his first match, he had to go against this guy, and I remember thinking like, man, there's no way Dustin's gonna beat this guy. Like I know this guy can wrestle. Like this guy can Iowa wrestle. Dude, the guy picked Dustin up, slammed Dustin, and Dustin was training with Michael Lopez for a little bit, like because we're bouncing around, and bam, Dustin locks in a triangle, and I've never seen anyone tap so fast, man. But. Yeah, certainly. Yeah, style versus style. And then, Tim was able to kind of come in and tie everything together, And,
so at the time, Tim was in the UFC around that time, or where was? And we're talking about Crazy Tim, correct?
Yeah, Crazy Tim Crater. I think and Tim was Louisiana's first black belt. Tim actually did a lot of his training in San Diego under Rodriguez Medeiros, and Tim's been around for a long time, man. He told me, that's a great story, man, one of his first fights was at I think it was like on deployment or whatever, and so him and his buddies, they go to Mexico, and there's like professional wrestling, and there's also like MMA fighting, so and I love this story, and they're like, hey, we'll give you $50 if you want to fight. So Tim fights a guy with like one of those luchador masks.
Okay.
Tim like head kicks this guy. Apparently, like blood's coming out of his mask. Anyway, so Tim's been around. I mean, and the funny thing is, like, we were cornering Dustin in the UFC for his first, 4 UFC fights, and dude, everywhere we went, everybody knew who Tim was, And so Tim actually got into the UFC much later in life, like at a pretty late age. But I remember like. We went and trained, and Kevin Randleman was there. He's Pride, UFC legend. And I remember like Kevin Randleman looking at me and saying, a lot of knowledge with this man right here. And it was just like, and you think about how lucky you are, like sometimes you don't realize how lucky, and it's your responsibility as a martial artist to, to absorb everything, from your instructors, and also, being teachable and learning from everyone, so.
Yeah. I'm sure you have to have an open mind. You have to be open to the criticism. You have to be open to learning every day, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, you got to be teachable, man.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I'll have guys to come in from other gyms, and they may be lower ranked, and they'll do a move, and I'm always like, man, what'd you do there? Okay, well, hey, what are you thinking right here? What are you going for? Like, oh, that's pretty cool, So, man, we are always students to the game. We're always getting better. And what's great is that, man, with the YouTube, and then also a lot of different channels out there, there's a lot of online universities. You don't have to train under, it's like, I'm under this lineage right here. This is my trainer. And I was like, bro, I'm under everyone.
Yeah.
There's so many resources out there, there's so many different people to train from and so many different people to learn from. Now, you got to take it and apply it, and then apply it in practice, and then do it in competition. But man, just so many different resources now, and you're seeing like just MMA and even like folk style wrestling is getting so big just because there's so much out there. There's so much information out there now.
Yep. 8:17 here inside the Power Hour, Planet Radio 106.7. It's Chris Logan. We're talking with MMA legend Eric Scallan, also owner of Gladiators Academy in Youngsville. He's going to be in the main event with Jason Sladen, the Ragin Fighting Championship RFC 1, Saturday, March 29th over at the Youngsville Sports Complex. Man, and it's funny, like, so you bring that up, people train in, a certain area, right? Because I think back watching UFC, some of that early stuff, dude, I'm talking like the Tank Abbott's, right? Who was like a fighter. Then you had like a Ken Shamrock who was trained in wrestling. Then you had the Hoist Gracie who was trained in jiu-jitsu, and everybody was trained in their own art.
Right.
And then they fought each other. But now it's like everyone is learning different styles of martial arts, right? Like you could be trained in jiu-jitsu and fighting and kickboxing. It's like you're training in a whole bunch of different arts.
Right. Well, now it's MMA. So I would say that so back then it was definitely different styles, but now what's so scary is that these kids are learning mixed martial arts. So they can all wrestle. They all can defend the takedowns. They all have decent striking. And what makes a good we're seeing a lot more now is the ability to blend all that stuff together. You know, the ability to transition from striking to a takedown, from ground and pound to submissions. And as you know, like, man, when you start doing something at a young age, I mean, there's no catching up.
Yeah.
If you're getting into mixed martial arts at the age of 21, 22, you'll never catch up. You'll never catch up. These kids have been doing it. I mean, I have kids in my program that are, you know, 8 years old. Yeah. And guess what? Hey, they can put their hands and their feet together. Yeah. They've competed in wrestling. They competed in jiu-jitsu. Good luck.
Yeah.
Good luck.
If they continue on, right?
Yeah. Good luck. You know, yeah. And, you know, you want it to be fun for them, you know, but, yeah, good luck, man. Because it's just, it's evolved, man.
Yeah. And we talked about this a little bit with Damon and Jared when they came in. And Jared had came in before. We talked about it. But there's a lot of popularity with MMA. There's a lot of gyms now. There's a lot of people trying to get into, I don't know, whether it be jiu-jitsu, whatever it is. Right. But are you seeing that? You're seeing that resurgence? You're seeing that popularity coming back for training and just MMA overall? Yeah,
and I would say, too, just, man, there's something about, you know, just in human culture and our society, you know, we have suppressed aggression and fighting. You know, I know that there's a saying is that, you know, the humans are the most dominant species for a reason, is because we are murderers. And it's deep down inside of us. And what makes a man is the ability to control that and to harness that and to use that for good. I mean, fighting is as natural as breathing. I mean, man, you can be a 39-year-old housewife from the church points. Yeah. And hey, someone puts their hand on your kid, or hey, your child is trapped somewhere. It's going to come out, you know. So it's important that we learn to harness that and to accept it and to control it and not let our fear and our emotions control us. Right?
Is that like what keeps you balanced in your life?
Yeah, absolutely, man. I think with it, I would just talk about just men in general. Just it's a little bit more of my demographic is that, you know.
Eric, I normally have 3 questions. And by the way, we got the Facebook Live back up. So we're back live on my Chris Logan Facebook page. I apologize for that. So if you want to share that again, Eric, you can. I know there's a couple people that wanted to check out the show. But, dude, it's I don't know. I don't know if we said something that Facebook got mad at or if we just had an internet dropout. But we're back on Facebook Live. We're here on Planet Radio 106.7. And we are also live on our Listen to the Planet app. Dude, and this is something new that I wanted to start whenever guests came in. And it's so new, I keep forgetting to do it. And that's asking 3 questions to the guests.
Sure.
So you want to get down with that? Normally, I would ask that at the beginning before we begin our interview, but I forgot. So question number 1, you have to choose one, gumbo or jambalaya?
Oh, man. Gumbo.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm from New Orleans, but I do like a little bit more Cajun style gumbo, man.
Okay.
Don't put no tomatoes.
No tomatoes. I was about to ask you that, dude. Tomatoes? No.
Yeah, for sure.
Also, question number 2, what's your favorite rock song?
Favorite rocks? I don't know. It depends on what midlife crisis
okay.
I'm going through in my life, you know? I mean, man, it could be anywhere from Tool to Pantera to Perfect Circle. I couldn't possibly pick one.
Can't pick.
Man.
Okay.
Yeah, it depends on which stage of my bipolar I'm on. Am I high or low or in between?
This is a sub question. What's your walkout song?
Going with my New Orleans background, it's going to be Hootie Hoo by Master P.
Nice. Yeah, dude.
I don't know, man. I've been wanting to walk out to Make 'Em Say
Okay.
And every time I want to do it, I just go right back to, you know, what I know best, you know. So both of them are fun. Both of them, I don't know, yeah, sometimes you just when that intro to Make 'Em Hootie Hoo just kind of once it drops, it just goes, man. So sometimes it's not about me. It's about putting up getting the crowd moving, you know. So.
Yep. And I guess if you stick with that same song, right, like once it drops, then everybody knows. You know, everybody knows you're coming.
Yeah, but that's kind of the fun of it too, and being able to mix it up. Like I think I came out to like Deftones and Maynard Passenger.
Okay, yeah.
Was one I came out to for a long time. Eminem, Not Afraid was one. I was going through a period of my life, and I've done some Stained. Mud Shovel was one, and I don't think that I like that one, but I don't think everyone's like, what is this? So it's really kind of about getting the crowd moving. It's not about you, it's about getting people moving.
Do you have any songs that get you fired up, or it's kind of like that, depending on your mood, what state you're in is what you're going to go to?
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, it could be anywhere from EDM to rap. I like it all, man.
Yeah. And the third question is this. Are you going to pinch someone? This is our question of the day today. Are you going to pinch someone if they don't have green on today since it's St. Patrick's Day?
I'll head kick someone. How about that?
Okay, yeah.
No, I don't. Yeah.
So this morning I was joking around because I have a Planet Radio shirt on, so they have green on it. And I was thinking, and when I unveiled the question of the day, I said, dang. Other than I saw my wife this morning, right? And she was still sleeping whenever I left. So obviously I'm not going to pinch her if she didn't have any green on. So I'm thinking, dude, the first person I'm going to see is Eric.
Yeah.
And if Eric doesn't have any green on, like, I'm not pinching that dude. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't want to get punched or head kicked or choked out. Like,
I got green eyes,
Okay.
But, it's funny though. I was actually just, dude, I'm like autistic or something. Like I'll get into something and just go just dive into it. So I was actually listening to something about the origin of St. Patrick's Day. So
yeah,
he wasn't even Irish. I don't know if you know. I don't even know or not.
Yes, yeah.
Right. He was British and he was kidnapped, and all of a sudden, so he went back to bring Christianity to convert all the Druids, and somehow some snakes got. First off, snakes were never there. But somehow it got pushed to with the power of God. He pushed out all the snakes and stuff.
Yeah.
And I don't know how leprechauns. I think the clover was to represent the Holy Trinity or something like that. You know. So
yep.
Fun fact.
It is.
I'll teach you about fighting. Teach you about history and
all sorts of fun stuff.
What you want to know.
So you are fighting Jason Slayton, the main event in RFC 1. You were out of the octagon, man. Considered yourself retired. What made you want to get back in?
Yeah, man. I honestly, just the ups and downs of fighting. It's a love-hate relationship, big highs, big lows, and building myself back up. And I was you get on a win streak and bam, you lose. You get on a win streak and you lose. And then at the time, man, I'm like 36. I got my kids. I got my business. It's like, what am I doing this for? And fighting is not something you play. Like if you're going to do it, you're going to do it 100%. And I found myself. I remember in one of my last fights, and I certainly trained hard, and I was winning the first round, and I got dropped. And I remember the first thing that went through my head was, oh, thank God. Like thinking, this guy's going to finish me. And I remember even, I went and talked to a therapist about it, right? And she was like, well, you couldn't physically quit. So it would be easier for someone just to put you out and give you that option. And the guy didn't finish me, and I finished the fight. And it was a close decision. I lost, But man, I was just done. I was like, man, I'm just going to sail off into the sunset. I'm okay. I'm content with where I'm at with my life. And then, man, next thing you're 39, and like I just started, losing weight. I was like, man, I'm about to be 40. I want to get in the best shape of my life. I never had abs. Okay, and I'm pretty mad about that. For someone who's been a collegiate wrestler, I've never had abs. Okay. And so I went to a personal trainer and like, well, what's your why? And I was like, I want to look good naked. He's like, not, I don't want to live longer. No, I want to look good naked. Dan. So, and then, man, I just started to lose weight, and then I just diet planning and meal prepping, and keeping track of my blood sugar, and I was actually like pre-diabetic, which I thought was crazy. Like how is that possible? And then for my birthday, I'm literally the day before, I said, hey guys, for my birthday, I want to spar. I want to fight all my friends. Like just whatever. And I had like 20, 30 people show up, and we just mauled each other. And I was dog tired. And I remember I even had some lighter guys, kind of beating me up. And I was thinking like, man, I'm in pretty decent shape. Like I still got it. I didn't lose that spark, and then, Tim decided to start his own promotion with, Aaron Phillips and Damon and Jared, and I think there's some other people behind the scenes as well. And as soon as I heard that, I reached out to him. I said, hey man, I'm losing weight. Like, I can't fight heavyweight. I can't, but I was like, man, let's do this. I want to be your first main event. And then I think we agreed at a higher weight. And then once the weight started coming off, I'm like, well, no, we can go lower. No, we can go lower. And now, man, I've lost 30 pounds since November. And doing it the right way, and the right way is like, dude, 1 pound a week. And for someone, it's very frustrating because you want to lose it all now. You work out for 6 weeks, maybe you have a bad week, and then you feel like you didn't lose any weight. Yeah. But just to stick to it, and man, I just have, and now at this age, like, diet and exercise is not a choice. Like, you have to do it. If not, you're gonna die. You know. And but now, man, I have more energy than ever. Man, I feel great.
So you're going to be fighting at what weight on Saturday the 29th? It's going to be
catch weight at 191. I'm not sure how we came up with that number, but it was in between, I think, 195 and 185, and that's kind of what we went with. You know, and
what is that like, making weight, man? I'm sure you've, in your previous fights, you probably had to make weight. What was the most you ever had to drop?
I've lost 24 pounds in 24 hours before.
No way, dude.
Yeah. And so I would cut from from 195 to 171, and it's the ability to do that. It's a gift and a curse. And I've made the weight, but I tell you what, in the middle of the second round, I would always fade. Yeah. I would always fade, you know. And so it's a whole process. You know, I obviously diet and exercise, and you know, but you get to a certain point where, like, hey, you're no longer trying to lose fat, you know. So it becomes a big process to lose the water, and I can kind of walk you through the process of what we do. So the week of, generally what we do is that we cut back on carbs, because carbs tend to help you retain water. So you cut back on that, and we do a process that's called water. First off, nobody do this at home.
Okay.
Do not
do this at home.
Okay, because I have people like, some girls like, I want to lose some weight. I'm like, okay, if you do this, you'll die. Yeah. So don't do this. Okay. Allegedly, this is what you do. So you do a little something called water loading. Where basically, you're drinking, like, and I have the formula written down, but it's generally you chug 2 gallons of water, so much water that you feel like sloshy.
Okay.
Right, and then eventually you cut down to 1 gallon. 1 gallon, and then the day you actually really wring the water out of you, you cut down to half a gallon of water, and by then your body just thinks, like, your body just can't hold on to all that water. So once you start the water cut, the water just flows out of you. So you got to kind of trust the process a little bit. So once you do that, there's a few methods, and the one I've been doing now is a bathtub that we do. So generally we'll go ahead, we get in a bathtub. We'll put the water as hot as we can. The hottest we can. We keep our head above the water. We'll dip ourselves in the water for about 20 minutes, and until you start. So the trick is, you want to break a sweat and then keep the sweat. Okay. So we break the sweat. We hurry up. We get out. We rub Albolene on our skin, which is a makeup remover. And I don't even know if this works or not, but I've done it for so long. But it's supposed to clog up your pores and help you sweat more. Then you wrap yourself up in rubber suit, sweats, and a blanket, and then you just cook, and you'll lose a pound. Once you break the sweat, I'll lose a pound every 10 minutes. Every 10 minutes, man. So you do that, you rinse and repeat. If you got to get back in the tub, but the idea is that the big mistake people make is that they start cutting, they break the sweat, and then they stop and they cool themselves off. It's like, bro, you got to break that sweat again. So once you get that sweat, you just hold on to it, and you don't let it go, and you just keep going, man. But yeah, man, it's a dangerous process. Yeah. It's definitely created, like, eating disorders through my whole life.
Oh, yeah.
And look, you lose weight, you do it on credit. Yeah. Your body will bounce back, and it'll come back with a vengeance, you know. So to actually do it the right way this time, like, I'm walking around and people are like, man, you look skinny. Like, you look like. And it's funny. It's like when you lose weight, people think like you're sick. Like,
right. Hey, bro, you sick?
Yeah, you're sick. I'm like, no, bro, I'm healthier than I've ever been in my entire life, you know. But yeah, you're not all swollen and everything, you know. But just so it's weird to not have to do a massive weight cut. Like, I gotta lose like 5 pounds. Like,
yeah, you know, that's nothing. You can do that in your sleep.
Nothing.
Yeah.
It's not. I'll go run right now and I could make the weight.
And then you'll be good to go. We're talking with Eric Scallan, MMA legend, here inside the Power Hour, Planet Radio 106.7. It is 8:47. Man, I also wanted to ask you about your reality fighting series that you did. That was with Bellator, correct? Tell us about that.
Man, so that was
how did you get caught up in that?
I was in the oil field. I was also fighting at the same time, and man, I had a good job, and I was like, man, I got to get away from this fighting stuff, man. You know, and so, but at the same, I remember I'm driving to Texas, And they actually offered it to my one of my coach and best friends, Christian Foldrum. They offered it to him, and he couldn't do it. And so it was a show done in New Orleans. It was filmed at Kern Studios in New Orleans, and they wanted some locals, and it was actually me and Josh Quayhagen who they selected. And it's coincidentally, Slayton is actually under Quayhagen. So, so they called me, and I did this interview, and and so they brought me there. We were in a hotel with, I forget where it was, and they flew me out to LA maybe, and I did this interview, and man, I came out in that interview with a vengeance. You know, I can't even repeat some of the stuff that I said. Like, well, what do you do if someone disrespects you? And I started talking about some prison stuff.
You were like,
and just being a personality, you know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You kind of turned it on for the show.
But I remember I was talking to this guy named Paul Gordon, and I remember looking at him, and I was like, man, I have so much regret, and I always felt like I never lived up to my full potential. If I could get one more opportunity to make this right, and he was a college football player, and I was like, Paul, like, could you go back one game, one play, and if you could change something, you know, how would that affect your life for the rest of your life? And it really resonated with him, you know. And so they gave me that opportunity, and I was able to go into the show, and man, I was able to fight, you know, Joe Diesel Riggs, who fought Matt Hughes for the UFC belt. One of my biggest victories, that's not even on my official record, was I was able to defeat Chris Curtis, who's actually a top 10 middleweight right now. And dude, he would murder me now. You know, but I was able to I remember just that mindset in my life is just, I wasn't going to be denied. And I was at a very dangerous spot. And and so just to get some notoriety and just
I was going to ask you, did that help you? Did that catapult you a little bit being on the reality TV show? Did you want it? Did you want to get that out of it?
Yeah, I don't think it didn't have the show didn't have the same attention that, say, the Ultimate Fighter had, but it was still a personal accomplishment, and man, it was just a cool experience living with 16 guys in a warehouse.
I bet,
we were all cool with everybody. We're still all friends to this day. It was just a very special moment. But yeah, it's cool, like, just to do something like that, you know. I had my 15 minutes of fame, and maybe I'm Lafayette famous now, which means I'm not at all, you know. But yeah, you're Lafayette famous, you know. So but no, it was a cool experience, and you look back on your life, and what you're really proud of is that the relationships you've had, and you know the things you've got to say, I've done that before. You know, so it was more checking boxes.
8:51, got a few more minutes left here inside the Power Hour, talking with Eric Scallan, who will be in the main event, RFC1 Ragin Fighting Championship, Saturday, March 29th over at the Youngsville Sports Complex. Something also cool happening. It is the weigh-in and face-offs. That's going to be the day before, Friday, over at Pete's on Johnson. We'll be talking more about that as that gets a little bit closer. So you and Jason Slayton are in the main event. What do you know about Jason? Can you tell us a little bit about him?
Yeah, look, I know. Look, he's tough. He actually beat one of my training partners. You know, so he's actually beaten a couple of my training partners. You know, so I'm very well aware of him. I'm very well aware of his skill set, his game is, and certainly he brings a lot to the table. You know, but you know, I'm not one to study film. I generally have like my coaches do that, because I don't like to read into people too much. Like, oh, if he does this, then I need to do this. You know, I generally have an idea of what he's going to do. But then also too, it's like I focus on myself. I focus on my training. I have my game plan, you know, that I plan on implementing, you know, so, you know, we're ready, man.
Yeah.
We're ready.
I know sports in general, you know, you talked about watching film and all that stuff. I know sports in general, especially, like, let's take football. Football's gotten very analytical, right? It's like, it's almost based on, if it's 4th and 3, and you know, then we're going to do this, because more times than not, this is going to work, that's not going to work. How analytical is it for fighting, man? Is it very analytical, or is it just studying your opponent?
Oh, absolutely, man. You know, certainly there's a science to it, but man, a lot of times, man, you go into a fight with a game plan, and man, I mean, you get hit, that game plan goes out the window, and so you have to know that, hey, I'm implementing A, and B, and if that doesn't work, we're jumping to C. You know, so just I think what makes a good martial artist is, and you'll see with like higher level guys, like they'll go against like a up and comer, and they may lose that first round, but they know how to make those adjustments. They know how to expose weaknesses, right? They catch on the patterns, know fairly quickly, But yeah, absolutely, anybody can call it, anybody can get submitted, anybody can get dropped, if they don't fight with intelligence, But a good fighter knows how to stay calm in the fire, and that's the heart. Like, how do you stay calm in a fight, And there's a fine line. Like, you don't want to be too calm, right? But you don't want to be, too worked up.
Yeah.
But just using that fear and anxiety as a catalyst, because that's what it's there for. That's why we have anxiety. Anxiety and fear let us know that, hey, we're not dead, and hey, we need to be on our toes right now.
Yeah.
So,
dude, being a fighter, obviously, there's a lot of physical training, right?
Right.
But like, you're talking about anxiety, fear. How much of that stuff do you or other fighters study, man? Like, how much do y'all study all that?
It's everything. It's everything. And I would say this. I always do this exercise with people, man. And I encourage everyone to do this exercise. Is that we call it the circle of control, right? So generally you draw a circle, and inside that circle, you write what can you control, and then on the outside what you can't control. All right. And so if I look at this fight, well, what can I not control? I can't control what people say about me. I can't control what my opponent's doing, or what opponent I'm going to have. Man, I can't control what my ex-wife's going to say about me. You know what I'm saying? I can't control the economy, but I can control my diet. I can control, the people that I put myself around. I can control my training. I can control, what training partners I'm bringing in. I may be struggling sometimes to get training partners. So tomorrow I'm actually driving to New Orleans to go train with people, So really, and then anything I can control, that's it. That's inside my circle. And anything outside of that is just non-existent, and it has nothing to do with me. And it's a very, very freeing exercise. And I encourage anyone to do that, just in their life in general,
Yeah. That's good stuff, man. I wish we had 2 power hours this morning to really kind of get into everything. But maybe we'll continue some of that conversation on Facebook Live for a bit. But we got to wrap up the power hour, man. Eric, thank you for coming on the show this morning, dude. Looking forward to RFC 1. That's going to be a very great event. If you want to get tickets for that, I suggest you get them very soon, maybe at some point this week. RaginFC.com is Ragin Fighting Championships website. If you want to win some tickets, go to our website, listentotheplanet.com. It's going to be a great card. Eric's going to be in the main event against Jason Sladen. Tomorrow, we're actually going to have Rylan Melanson and Drake Pellegrin on the Power Hour tomorrow hanging out with us. I know Drake was with Carly in Las Vegas on Saturday. She got a UFC win, so I'm sure we're going to talk a little bit about that tomorrow too. But dude, good luck on Saturday. I guess I'll probably see you at the weigh-ins the Friday night before.
Yep.
And thanks for coming hang, man.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. It was fun.
You got it. So look, the final hour of the morning show is coming up. We're going to get back to more music. Got some Incubus, some Pumpkins, got some Jimmy Eat World, Bush, Mad Season, and a whole lot more. Keep it right here. There we go, bro.
That was easy.
Man, that was easy, dude. I don't like asking any weird questions, bro. I like having fun.
You good? I don't think we cut off too much. So.
No, we didn't get too much cut up. Let's see.
I don't think we got to my fight with my son and all. I don't think we didn't get to that, did we? It was tough.
Yeah.
Yes.
So so your son's wrestling do y'all have it at Gladiators?
Yeah.
Like, so y'all if you're young like that and you're not in high school. Yeah. Like, y'all have a wrestling team that y'all can go do?
We even have high school kids, too. But, absolutely. It was a wrestling program that we started. I was a volunteer coach for a while and basically started my own program, so.
Nice.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, he actually has state this weekend, man. So
really?
So he's doing state this weekend, then I'm doing, my fight the next week, and so. No, it's cool, man. Just be able to, and my daughter does it, too.
Oh, really?
My daughter is, and she's just having fun with it, but man, no, we brought her to Texas, and she'll wrestle boys and girls. And
so, how is it? I'll have a couple people ask that. Like when Carly was on, and Damon and Jared. I had a couple ladies who listened to the show, and they're like, "Are there any females fighting for RFC 1, and I don't think there's any on the card, right?
It's hard to matchmake.
Yeah, that's what I kind of told them, and that's what I gathered from everybody. It's very hard. Even talking with Carly when she was on the show, sometimes she trains with guys because it's hard for her to train with
it gets weird because the other girls in the area where you start training with them, and then some fight promoter comes in from out of town, like, hey, well, we got a fight for you, and it's like, so you get that a lot, and look, at the end of the day, it's a business, and it's just or sometimes it's just an amateur fight. It doesn't matter, but it gets a little weird. It's like, this is my main training partner.
Right.
I know. The guy that beat Jason Slayton beat was Chris Crosby. Dude, he's one of my main training partners because we're heavier, high level grapplers. And so Tim's like, hey, how about Chris Crosby? I was like, dude, I was like, it's my boy. It's like my boy, you know what I'm saying? I've helped him. We've been working with each other for the last, couple of years, you know? So it's just.
Is it, I'll wrap up the Facebook Live in a bit. Is it tougher or easier to fight somebody that you know?
You know what? I'd rather fight someone I don't know.
Yeah.
Because if it's someone you know, you kind of build them up in your head to be something that they're not, maybe. Look, at the end, it just depends on what it's for. Is it for a huge fight opportunity or for money? Yeah, sure, we can do it. But I'd rather fight someone kind of unknown. Yeah. Personally, it's just kind of easier for me, and it's also a bigger challenge. Whatnot. I want someone who's going to excite me, and someone who's going to scare me a little bit. Yeah. I definitely go with someone that I don't really know.
But dude, is it hard for you to cut off that competitiveness? Is it hard, dude? Because inside for me, dude, I'm pretty competitive, and sometimes and I'm competitive on different things, but it's so hard to turn off, man.
Talk about my midlife crisis now. Yeah, absolutely. No, certainly is. For a while, man, I made the mistake of getting into golf. And oh my God, dude, I'm so, and it's not even like the competitiveness, but it's more of the obsession.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. So, and I'm a horrible golfer, but I'll still do it. I'll play like 2-3 times a week, like something ridiculous. And then even like with, I got real big into hiking and backpacking. Okay. That's like my new obsession now. Where I'm traveling to all the national parks, like for Mardi Gras. Like I said, I don't really party like I used to. So for Mardi Gras, I'm like, man, I want to get out of town. So I literally went to basically New Mexico and West Texas. Like 3 hours, like basically the Mexican border, and I went backpack for 5 days. Just literally like cowboy camping, like just like a sleeping bag, an air mattress, and the stars, and just did that.
That's awesome.
So you always, but yeah, it's important that, hey man, as me personally, I need something to work on, whether it's my business or. Whether it's homing in on my kids or my kids' wrestling program. Yeah. So the idea is to use that obsession and competitiveness towards something positive. And man, if I don't put it towards something positive, you can go to something negative real quick, man.
Yeah. Now, are you able to are you doing Gladiators full time? Like that's your full time gig.
I'm so fortunate to be able to do that full time. But no, actually, recently, man, I'm pretty sure it's not set in stone, but I just got into graduate school to get my master's in counseling.
Nice.
So that's just something I've always wanted to pursue. And it was funny, the way it started was that I was either going to, I was 20-something, I just graduated college. So it was like, and I was studying to take this test, the GRE, to get into grad school. But then I had a fight opportunity pop up. So I was like, all right, well, am I going to go to grad school or am I going to take this fight opportunity? So at 20-something, I went this way, right? And I pursued my fight career and then eventually started my own gym. Now, as I get older, I'm like, well, man, this is something I always said I wanted to do. And this is also another way that I can impact people's lives, And so it's not set in stone yet, but I should find out this week, and I feel pretty confident about it. If not, I'll come beating on the door next year. But yeah, it's just about, in life, just you always say you want to do something, and the next thing you know, your health diminishes, you have your wife, kids, and it all kind of falls apart. So I'm excited to pursue that avenue as well. And for a long time, we use martial arts, health, and wellness to better people's lives. But I feel like, man, that some men, women, and children, they need a little bit more intensive work. So I thought that, and it doesn't require me wrestling with someone and getting beat up.
Right.
So that's what I'm really looking at too. what do I do when I'm 50 something? You know.
Yep. Yeah.